It's no news now that the global economy has been experiencing a lot of difficulties over the past 3 years or so. But despite this, there are a few economies, particularly in Central to Eastern Europe, that have been experiencing something of a renaissance. One of these countries is Romania, who are quietly becoming a force to be reckoned with within the economies of the EU. So how did Romania go from economic stagnation throughout the 1980s to becoming one of Europe's fastest growing economies within 40 years? Is their current growth rate sustainable? If so, what are the future projections? And what can their current success teach any other economies that are trying to replicate their economic system? Stay tuned to the video to get all the answers to the Romanian economic miracle. To understand where Romania is going, we need to first know where they've been. From the end of World War II up until the mid-1970s, Romania saw some of the fastest economic growth in the world, which was achieved through investment in heavy industry. But this quick growth was fueled by huge debts, and by 1982, their debts had risen to up to $13 billion. Due to the 70s energy crisis and the ensuing recession in 1974, Romania was unable to repay their debts. The measures the Romanian government tried to mitigate this issue with also had less than desired effects, and this led to a period of stagnation until the Romanian Revolution in 1989. And by 1990, the country would have no external debt as they transitioned to a free market economy. Ever since the financial crisis of 2008, a lot of European economies have struggled to make a full recovery, and some like Greece have barely recovered at all, and the COVID-19 pandemic didn't help matters either. However, there are some outliers like Norway and Switzerland that have kept growth levels more or less steady, at least when compared to other developed economies. Romania, on the other hand, have had less eyes on their economic growth numbers, but they've surprisingly been very good since the turn of the millennium. In fact, the last time they had a negative GDP growth before the COVID-19 outbreak year was in 2010, where they posted a negative 3.6% growth. And they've almost doubled the size of their economy since then, from $170 billion in 2010 to $301 billion in 2022, to become Europe's 12th largest economy and the 7th largest when adjusted by purchasing power parity. This growth has in part been driven by their decision to formally join the European Union in 2007. You see, officially joining the EU meant that Romania could now access trade with other EU nations more easily, and their strategic location gives them even more influence given that they've direct access to the Black Sea and are located relatively close to the Middle Eastern nations. So they're very vital to trade on the European continent, and even more so now given the current situation in Ukraine, which they share borders with. Another reason for Romania's growth in recent years has been due to the increased flexibility of the economy as they evolved into a service-based economy as well as increased foreign direct investment. This has been supported by low interest rates, which makes Romania one of the most attractive nations in Europe for investment. They've also managed to maintain high industrial output, unlike most other European nations. Their financial sector has seen some marked improvement over the years, especially in the banking sector, and they've also achieved this while managing to keep their debt-to-GDP ratio low at just 51.4%. They're still net importers, but it's expected given that they're not quite as resource-rich or industrialized as some other European nations. They do have large natural gas, crude oil, and some metallic ore deposits, but nowhere near enough extracting power to compete with larger economies or support large-scale industrialization. After growing their economy by almost tenfold since the turn of the decade, Romania has had a consistently growing middle class, which has further boosted their economy. But the question that needs to be answered is if they can sustain this growth, and if so, for how long? While Romania may be experiencing tangible growth at the moment, they're not alone, as basically all their neighbors are also experiencing something similar. Even warring Ukraine is expected to record a GDP growth of over 3.5% in 2023, after recording a 5.3% growth in the first 9 months of the year. After the shocks of the Russian invasion of Ukraine back in March of 2022, a lot of Central to Eastern European nations have been experiencing a rebound in their economies. However, the effects of the war still linger on, as hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have had to migrate westward, with Romania one of the most favored destinations. This mass migration has really aggravated the structural deficiencies of Romania, as well as leading to a record yearly inflation rate of 16.4% in December 2022. According to the World Bank, growth is now expected to decelerate in 2023 due to the general effects of the aforementioned Russia-Ukraine war on the cost of energy and food. The possibility of a prolongation of the money-tightening policies to battle the heavy inflation could also lead to less investment, which could also cause a domino effect for the Romanian economy, especially if the war continues to rage on. Romania still also faces some structural and institutional deficiencies in its government. Corruption and political interference in the rule of law remains a problem, and reforms are needed in areas such as the labor market and public finance management. Fiscal policy also needs to be properly planned and communicated to households, and Romania has lent more in 2023 alone than any of the previous 2 years to ensure they're on the right path. They currently rank 53rd in the world on the Index of Economic Freedom and 30th out of the 44 countries in the EU. So there's still some way to go to becoming the next big economy in Europe. However, the overall forecast for the growth of the Romanian economy in the coming decades remains positive, as they're poised to remain vital to the European economy as a whole. There are a few things the Romanian government needs to change to ensure growth is continued over the coming years, but there are also a few positive lessons other economies can learn from them. Romania has proven that maintaining a competitive industrial sector is key to sustaining economic growth or at least achieving some form of economic stability. When you produce things that other economies need regularly, then you'll always have a source of income, and Romania has done well to ensure they stay competitive in some sectors of production by keeping certain costs low. As the quality of life increased on average, a lot of other countries in Europe chose to deindustrialize and outsource large-scale production to nations with cheap labor. Romania wasn't one of these countries, and it's reflected in these statistics, with the industrial sector accounting for almost 32% of their GDP. Romania is also one of the economies actively chasing sustainability and a move towards carbon neutrality, as they attempt to converge to the higher incomes of their EU peers. So after weathering the storms of the previous 3 years, Romania has managed to stay on course for future economic prosperity. So there you have it. It looks like Romania's industrial sector, combined with improved monetary and fiscal policies, is about to propel them into being one of the manufacturing hubs in Europe with the potential of being fully carbon neutral. And with global tensions arising across the world, their ability to produce things in an ecologically friendly manner could be the difference maker in their quest to become Europe's next big economy. But what do you think? Can Romania continue on their current growth trajectory, or are they just benefiting from a temporary cycle? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.